So this is my garden that I transformed from 0.25 of an acre here in the city. And this is the tree that made me never want to do it again. So I grew up out in the country. We had like 7 acres, fruit trees. My mother had a garden. And somewhere inside, that's always what I've wanted for my adult life. And now having kids, also want them to experience, the same thing I did. But unfortunately, that's just not my scenario. I thought I never would live in the city, and yet almost 10 years now, here I am in a very urban environment. I actually tried and failed to get a home once before for some really stupid reasons, but roughly 3 years went by and the market's doubled. So even though I'm working more than I ever have, I'm making more than I ever have, I still can't really afford it. And that's incredibly frustrating, because really behind this are deeper things, like me wanting to learn how to grow my own food, for my children to know where real food comes from, to learn how to become more self-sufficient, and so it's like if I don't have that, then I feel like that's not possible for me. And the truth is, that's not real. Eventually I said, I have to use what I have to start where I'm at, and then believe in faith for what could be, and also be thankful for what God has currently given me. And that's the origin story for how this garden started, as well as my indoor farm, which if you're a subscriber, you've seen before. That's what most of my content is about. I've been running an indoor farm professionally now for 2 years. But for this front 0.25 acre, it was completely barren, filled with weeds and trees and various plants. It did not go as I planned, but this is that story. The first thing I did was pull out all of those weeds and plants. Then I leveled out pretty much this entire area. I planted carrots, onions, corn, 4 different types of squash, 5 different types of potatoes, 5 different types of tomatoes. Like, I shot for the fences. I can't tell you how exciting this was, because I was finally doing it. And despite not being where I would ultimately like to be, I'm still planting. My kids are with me. We're like experimenting. We're having fun. They're learning. And it was only when I eventually went to harvest my potatoes that I realized things really weren't going as good as I thought. Now, I, of course, was documenting this whole process, and maybe the last thing my channel actually needed is to go outdoors, because there's so many content creators who put out awesome content about growing. But I still have some unique ideas, and one of them was with these potatoes. And I'm just tending to these taters for over 100 days, thinking they're growing very well. I cannot wait to harvest them. In these bags, you see these pictures online where they have these open flaps and there's like so many potatoes in there. And so I had them lined up, and I pulled open that flap, expecting to just see this beautiful display of all different types of potatoes. And I didn't see any. I thought, well, they just probably haven't grown to the edge, so I start digging it out, not finding anything, digging deeper, still not finding anything. And then my heart just sank. Oh no. I had these massive, potato plants. They're like sprawling, and I'm seeing flowers. I have all the signs that these are doing great. Could there really be no potatoes in these bags? So I decided to just dump them out and start sifting through them. And the long story short is that I had very tiny and few potatoes. After 3 months of taking care of these plants, that was really sad. And it was at that point that I realized that this tree was a problem. Now, I of course knew that from the jump, this tree made this area very shaded. But I thought that would just make things grow slower. I didn't think it would make them not grow at all. And if my potatoes weren't doing well, I just thought, well, what else isn't doing well? The broccoli here, just not fruiting. Look at the thickness of this stem, but it never produced. I didn't get 1 ear of corn off of 44 plants. And to make matters worse, I also made a bunch of mistakes. For example, my spaghetti squash started to have white powdery mildew, and I made a solution that I read online of hydrogen peroxide and water, and it killed the powdery mildew. It actually killed everything. Clearly my dilution rate was not right, and that just crushed my heart even more. You know, our city actually has a portal that you can see the name and type of every tree in the city. It's pretty cool. This one is a sweet gum tree, but one of the things about these trees is that they're constantly just raiding the garden from the sky with these spiky balls. I'm assuming this is what carries their seed, and I mean, they are just everywhere. At first, I used to just pick them up and throw them out into one of these piles up front, but that did not prove effective, and that's just also not fun to deal with. And to put into perspective how agonizing this was, folks, I had the chance to remove this tree twice for free. The city came and they wanted to remove it, and I told them to leave it twice. Because one, it's an ecosystem. We see squirrels and birds in it every single day. You see that little birdhouse? There's a squirrel on that birdhouse every morning. It also looks beautiful. You can see it from our upstairs windows, especially as fall comes. Like, I don't want to remove this tree, and I have like mixed feelings about whether that was the right thing to do. To say the least, I felt defeated. But the more I thought about it, the more my perspective began to change. Because truthfully, not everything went wrong. For example, we have got mini zucchini, which has been great. We've got mini yellow summer squash. This is like, what, I think number 6 or 7. Even though they are small, we still did get some baby carrots to enjoy. We still got a bunch of different tomatoes. Here we have some cherries, some Marglobe. This is some Roma. And here we have some black creme. Here we have a nice butternut squash. Well, we got some baby sweet potatoes. We'll just let those keep growing. Here's some of the other potatoes, the rest of them. And there it is. You know, in the moment that I realized that this tree caused a lot of problems for this garden, and all the mistakes that I made because I'm inexperienced, especially when I went to harvest those potatoes, it made me want to give up. Literally, I was like, all my biases are true. I can't do this how I want. My space isn't right. You know, I shouldn't have done this. And I realize now that that is wrong. And when I look at what I do have, what I was able to pull off, I say to myself, this is a complete win on numerous levels. Like, just the experience that I gained. Like, I'm gonna do so much better next year because I'm not going to stop growing. I'm gonna keep growing. Getting to plant and maintain the garden with my family, my girls getting to see firsthand what real food is, where it comes from, like that alone is invaluable. You know, between us, we also gained some street credit with our neighbors. We actually know all our neighbors now because the garden has introduced simple conversations, and some of them we're even hanging out with now, and we're trading produce, and I've been given craft beers. Like, I feel like I'm almost more a part of the community. That was an unexpected and cool benefit. And so all this to say that don't let negative or less than ideal circumstances stop you from trying. You probably don't have the land that you want, the space that you want, or may even need, but you can start anywhere. And that's what my channel is about, learning to grow food where you are, with the space you do have, whether that's indoors or outdoors. It's possible. I'm an example, And you know, if you do, based on my experience, I think you won't regret it.
What? Daddy, we can make this for zucchini bread. And we can make these with soup.
Yes, we can.
Uh-oh.
That's okay.
What's this?
This is a sweet potato.
Sweet potato.